Thank you so much for your time. So won't you just update us on some of the progress that you've made? Obviously, you can't go through all the projects since May 2020, but just give us a sense of whether you are further along than you were hoping to, or if you had some serious setbacks, and some of the projects that you're most proud of.
No, thank you, Sally, and thanks for the invitation. Good evening to the viewers. Well, it has been a mixed bag. I mean, we announced those 62 projects, 50 of which were funded through the debt capital market in the broad categories of student housing infrastructure, social housing program, also the water resources side, the Mokolo Crocodile River, and then the Umkomas augmentation project, and then there was a significant proportion of those projects in the energy sector, really around the renewables. And I think progress on those is well documented. You know that we're bid window 5, we are entering a financial close on the student housing accommodation. We have made significant strides, yielding over 20,000 beds. And also on projects that are funded by private sector. So what the government needed to do was to provide the bulk infrastructure to unleash the potential of those projects, mainly in housing development and mixed use. But of course, there has been a number of setbacks, and those have to do with the kind of delays that are in the system in relation to the permitting and licensing. You find that records of decision in relation to EIAs are delayed, the water use licenses, and that's why the President was referring to the need for institutional reforms, Operation Vulindlela, to help us to unlock those areas of impasse so that we can realize the full potential of infrastructure in our country. We had about 50 of these projects funded through the debt capital markets. Of the 62, 29 of them are either in the procurement stage or they are in construction or completed. These are to the tune of about 119 billion rands. But our view is that we should be doing significantly more in order to help the economy to recover, Sally.
All right. So am I understanding that you went to market to raise the money for at least 50 of the projects? There's also public-private partnerships. You said 119 billion rand. Is that how much money has been raised in total needed for these 62?
Yes. So there are two categories of this project in the 62. The 50 are the ones that gets to be financed through the debt capital market because they've got a reliable and resilient revenue streams, and those attracted, they were to the tune of 340 billion rands, and of those 50, 29 of them are either in construction, procurement, or completed, and those amounts to 119 billion rands of the 340. So it means that there's a remainder of 21 of these projects that must be accelerated, and I did indicate that part of the reason is because of licensing and permitting. Then there are social projects. These are special category of projects that are funded through the fiscus, and the President has announced them. One is around the rural roads program. We are going to roll out about 682 kilometers of rural roads. We are going to use brick paving to allow for mass employment opportunities so that we can maximize participation of local communities. So 12 of those are funded through the fiscus. The President announced the issue around the rural bridges. We're rolling out about 14 of these bridges per annum. We're scaling it up to 95, and over a period of 3 years, we want to do about 400 of them. So we're going to take them to 95 per annum and continue to scale them up. So that's the 12 that is the difference of the 62.
There's a lot on the go, and I can tell by how you rattle it off that it's all very much top of mind for you. I'm just wondering, though, because investment and people willing to back us also is very much a confidence game. To what extent did what happened in July last year, where we lost 50 billion rand in infrastructure damage, and those images were beamed all over the world, to what extent did that hamper what you're trying to do?
Oh, absolutely, Sally. I think it was a major dent in building a private sector confidence, our ability as a state to discharge and prosecute a project of this magnitude. I mean, just last week we were in France having a technical discussion with our French counterparts and the AFD, one of the big multilateral development banks in the world that is looking to invest in the country, some of the projects that I've mentioned. And one of the top issues that they had raised was how safe is South Africa as an investment destination. Of course, we're able to share with them about the independence and credibility of our judiciary, the banking system, so on and so forth. But the events of July did not help us, but we know that from a crime intelligence point of view, from the point of view of ensuring that we begin to rebuild that confidence, I think we're making strides, but I don't think we're making it fast enough. So there's a need for us to attend these matters as agency or an emergency rather, and the president has taken that tone that the characterization of the need and the speed with which we need to execute should be considered an emergency.
I want to ask you about the fact that this, I think, was the first project to fall directly under the presidency. Since then, of course, Mondli Gungubela has been pulled into the presidency in terms of looking after the State Security Agency. And of course, we heard at SONA earlier in February that Sipho Nkosi is going to become the red tape cutter-in-chief also within the presidency. So, I mean, are you guys running out of desks there? Do you have to share desks? It's getting quite crowded in the presidency.
No, sorry, not at all. Just to make the point that we don't substitute ministries that have a mandate. Minister Lille is still the executive authority responsible for public works and infrastructure, and there's very other ministries that are responsible for infrastructure. I think the point there is to achieve aggregation benefits, scale benefits, the need for us to coordinate and align and ensure that when there's an intervention that is made in a particular geography, it has the kind of impact that is required. So it is important that we work very closely with the DGs of those departments around one table, so the whole of government gets to attack the challenges that are in the infrastructure space, but also exploit opportunities that present. So the intention really is not to replace or replicate, but essentially to augment the capacity that exists in the Tax Office.
I have to ask you one very quick question. I can't let you go because we know tomorrow is budget day. Without asking you, from an infrastructure point of view, what should we expect to see?
Well, the point is how do we get to reconfigure the infrastructure fund, which is a blended financing mechanism, to give us the kind of potential or outcomes that we want. So it is important that that blended financing mechanism gets to crowd in private sector participation. And the second one is around the design of a financing solution to support social infrastructure and begin to create jobs. I'm more than confident that Minister Godongwana will be able to elaborate on that, and us as technocrats will get to implement what gets to come out of budget speech. But remember, it gets to support the articulations of the SONA, so it provides the rands and cents to the SONA. And once Minister Godongwana descend the stage, so it's up to us bureaucrats to make sure that we apply the kind of agency, assuming that we're dealing with a national emergency in relation to addressing unemployment, poverty and inequality in the country.
Yeah, a national emergency indeed. Well, we'll let you get right back to it. Thank you so much for giving us an update.